Morning. I think we'll have a look at Vijay Tendulkar's play, Silence the Courtesan session today. Well, I think you know all about Tendulkar and his role in the Marathi theatre. And he belongs to a generation of playwrights in India, of which Tanveer is one, Girish Karnad is another, and Badal Sarkar is a third contemporary of his, who modernized Indian theatre, not only in technique but also in themes. And most of them were deeply rooted in their social milieu, as you can see from the play, as you read the play. So, what is this play about, you can ask? Actually, this play is about many things at the same time. For one, it's a play within a play. Something that you have seen in such well-known, world-renowned works like Hamlet. A group of players enacting a play which is shown as part of another play within the scene. So this is also a play within the play, or most of it. Actually, there is a session before the play begins and there is one after. The play is set in the middle. And what were these participants in the play? The actors, the characters going to do after they enacted this play. They were going to stage a play in protest against American President Johnson's deployment of atomic weapons, I believe in Cuba at that time. Not in Cuba. In Cuba it was the Russians who deployed a missile, and Dr. Johnson was probably deploying missiles in answer to them. In other words, it was the kind of nuclear proliferation that these characters in the play were going to protest. So they were performing a play later in the evening. This is actually just a recreation for them, just to pass the time. They think of enacting a mock play, which is to which would be followed by the actual play in protest against nuclear proliferation. And it's mentioned in the play. So a play within a play in technique. But that is not all. If you think of this play as a play within the play, as simply a matter of technique, it is not, the ideal way to look at a play like this. Like other plays, like Girish Karnad's Tughlaq, we know that it's not about a king, a sultan called Muhammad bin Tughlaq. It's about many other things. It can be read as an allegory on the Nehruvian era in Indian politics. It can be read as a play against despotism. It can be read as many things. So this play, which we are going to look at, Tendulkar's Silence the Courtesan session, is also a play which can be read in many ways, which contains in it the possibilities of multiple reading. That's what it is. So we found the background of the play. It is a group of people who were about to stage a play in protest against nuclear proliferation, against the deployment of nuclear weapons in Europe. They were performing this play in which many other things came to the forefront. Many other things were revealed. So this is a revealing play. And what does the play reveal? It reveals many things. For starting from the title itself, silence, the courtesan session, it is a severe, a hard-hitting critique against a judiciary. As you read the play, you will find this projected in many parts of the play, in many scenes, how the judiciary is attacked, Indian judiciary is attacked. You have found this in other texts. You have found this in films. You have found how the judiciary becomes a mockery of our society, a mockery in our society. Instead of dispensing justice, it dispenses injustice. We have often found. So probably one can look at the play as a mockery, as an attack on the judiciary in India. So starting from the title itself and the way the mock court functions. So at one point, one of the characters who plays a clerk in the court, and Leela Benare, the school teacher, is the defendant. Okay, she is accused of murdering her child, her illegitimate, so-called illegitimate children. No children are illegitimate. Just that she begat this child out of wedlock. She was not married. This is just a play. No, it doesn't talk about something that really happened. Okay, so in this play within the play, Leela Benara is the accused and she has to testify in court. So normally in our courts, you have to swear by something, some scripture, the Bhagavad Gita or the Bible or the Quran, whatever holy book. And sometimes the defendants will say, or the witnesses will say, that they'll just take a solemn oath. They don't want to swear by any scripture. So in this case, in the court, we find that one of the characters, I think it is Pongshe, says, "Oh, we don't have anything to swear by." Okay, and he looks around and finds a dictionary, an Oxford dictionary. So he takes this, gives it to Benare and says, "Swear by this." So, and the defendant swears by I swear by the Oxford dictionary. Instead of I swear by the Ramayana, Bhagavad Gita or Bible or Quran, whatever. So this mockery of the judicial system, as you know, that this is a downright silly practice. Okay, it doesn't show anything. It doesn't mean anything. And the various other incidents in the scenes, such as the court is adjourned when the judge wants to spit out the pan that he was chewing. Okay, so the court is adjourned for half a minute. He has to go out and spit out the pan. So all judicial processes. Okay, and the way he says order, order. Okay, striking the hammer on the table. So this, everything, spitting out his pan, juice, asking the witness to tell the truth, okay, and a mutual wrangling between the judge. Mr. Kanshikar is the judge. And as the court procedures are on, he picks up a quarrel with his wife, the other people in the court in the inverted commas. So, in fact, the play is, you can say, an attack on the judiciary. Okay, how the judicial process becomes a mockery in India. So remember that this play was first staged in the 1960s. Probably our judiciary has become worse in the last 50 years, 60 years, 60 odd years. So that is one way to look at the play. 2, it can be read as a proto-feminist play. because Leela Benare is being tried in this mock trial. It's not real. For, falling in love with her professor, getting a child by him, and then murdering it. She's tried for infanticide. Okay. Now, we see that in the beginning she is very defiant. She even puts out her tongue at the judge. She says, I don't care. And during the course of the trial, we learn that she is a very efficient teacher. Free-minded, bold. She sings songs in court. And her freedom even to seduce a man. We find it at the beginning of the play. When she tries to move closer to Samat, and she stands very near to him, tries to seduce him, and Samat is afraid, like many men are. Okay. And so the kind of boldness, what we today call agency, okay, the ability to take care of herself, that's what we find at the beginning of the play. Okay. And at the beginning of the trial also, when she's attacked by the judge and others, when they are trying to build up a case against her, she stands up to them. But during the course of the trial, we find that she is systematically weakened by the men around her, and also a woman. So Mrs. Kanshikar, a society lady, in spite of being a woman, behaves very arrogantly, domineeringly against Leela Benare. Okay. So the complicity of women in atrocities against women, we find that perfectly in the character of Mrs. Kanshikar. So all the kinds of enunciations of confidence that Leela Benare has at the beginning. She sings songs. She tells of her wonderful time she had with students. Okay. And in passing we learn that she had been suspended at school for a very ordinary, not crime, but a misbehavior, so-called. Okay. And probably she didn't respect somebody higher up. Okay, this is very important in our hierarchy of education. You have to respect your elders, you have to respect your teachers, you have to respect everybody. If you are, particularly if you are at the bottom of the hierarchy, if you are a young student, you have to respect your seniors, you have to respect your teachers, you have to respect the principal, you have to respect the vice chancellor, so on. So Leela Benare's refusal to follow this traditional system of hierarchical obeisance, respect to people higher than her in the hierarchy. That is what led to her suspension, her the brief punishment that she got. Now, here in this mock play, she is systematically worn down. You know, how a witness in a court can be systematically destroyed by a very aggressive lawyer. You have seen that. We have seen that in many films. By asking very probing questions, by asking very belligerent questions. Okay. Do you know him? Did you meet him? At what time did you leave his office? So continuous cross-examination till the witness or the defendant is broken. So this is what happens in a judicial system. And Leela Benare, who defends herself very well in the beginning. As I said, she even puts out her tongue against the judge. Such bold behavior is finally destroyed. subverted by the continuous probes, continuous cross-examination. So she breaks down in the end and cries. So that is one of the most common readings that you can make of the play. A feminist reading. A feminist reading putting Leela Benari at the center of the play. Right. So all the other characters, even the complicity of Mrs. Kanshikar with the other men, women. We know we have had such experience in our culture. How a certain commissioner for women, the chairperson of the Women's Commission actually took the side of the oppressor. We have had such histories, and how she virtually rejected the victim's pleas. So everywhere in society you find such characters, and people who are indifferent to the plight of women as victims, and people who are bent on destroying them, who act against women with a vengeance. Yeah. So that is one way you can read the play, especially the last scene where there is a refrain of the song which Leela Benare sang at the beginning. Now in a sad note, about a bird in a cage. So when the bird is let out, when the bird is given freedom, or when the singer celebrates the bird's freedom, we think that this is about women bound to their homes, bound to their families, bound to moribund customs and practices, apparently anti-women. Right. So here at the end of the play we find that though that song comes back in a sad note against the victim, Leela Benare. Right. So all the things that she is accused of, that as if she alone is to blame for the crime, as if a woman who is seduced by an elderly man in a play of power, although this is mere fiction in the sense that it's simply a play within a play. All the events are invented by the actors, but in spite of the fact that it is an invented thing, we find that this is exactly the way in which a woman is treated in court. How a woman is systematically destroyed on the witness stand by the prosecution, by the witnesses, by society in general. That's what we found in the play. Right. So all the crime she is accused of, and how evidence is manufactured, or how the court acts on very flimsy evidence. There are no direct witnesses to the murder. There are only circumstantial evidence coming. So on the basis of this circumstantial evidence, she is convicted, found guilty. And that the word guilty is repeated several times by the so-called judge, Kashika, in court. So this is how you can look at the play. This is how you can look at the play as a feminist text. And many other plays of Tendulkar's, Sakaram Binder, for instance, have very strong women characters who assert themselves rather than go under male pressure. But also, the play can be read as social criticism. How the characters constitute a cross section of Marathi society or even Indian society. Okay, they take the intellectual in the play who smokes continuously. Okay, an intellectual, a playwright. Okay, completely indifferent to contemporary reality, who lives merely on the plays that he writes and their performance. And the kind of intellectuals who once existed in Indian society, especially during the 60s, wearing a jubba, okay, sporting a beard, smoking all the time. So this kind of anarchic artists or writers, there were many once upon a time, even in Kerala during the 60s and 70s, who in some ways stood apart from society. So Edward Said, the Palestinian intellectual, talks about organic intellectuals. Who are organic intellectuals? Organic intellectuals are intellectuals who take part in social activities, who are conscious of social problems, who are alert to social events, what is happening. So Edward Said himself was a good example. During the a movement in the Israel-Palestine conflict, he stood on the border with Israel and threw stones at the soldiers. Of course, symbolically, not really, but symbolically. Thereby proving that he was an organic intellectual who was alert to what was happening, who wanted to take part, in fact, who wanted even to lead the struggles of his people, society. Whereas the intellectual that we see in this play is simply a wastrel, okay, who doesn't care about what happens in society. Okay. And the first character whom we meet in the play, Savan, is a timid young man who doesn't even dare to marry for fear of his being unable to maintain a family. Okay, not to say anything about falling in love. That's why he spurns Leela Benares' advances, attempts to seduce him. Mrs. Kashikar, who is a society lady with prejudices, who can even be anti-woman in her attitudes. Mr. Kanshikar, a rich man, domineering. Okay, he becomes a judge in the mock play. A young man called Rodke, who is actually their foster child. They didn't have anything, so they adopted Rodke, who is also a wastrel, simply spending his adopted parents' money, doing nothing. Okay. And so you have a kaleidoscopic picture of society, okay, of society, of what people do, okay, of social attitudes, how how people in a society act, both in normal circumstances and in circumstances of crisis. So the crisis that we see in the play is actually, we must remember that they are all going to perform a play in protest against nuclear proliferation in Europe. And they are rehearsing, and while they are relaxing, they are just to spend their time, they are enacting a mock play. So probably this kind of gap between reality and imagination, between reality and activism. So the same people who are protesting against an event of great magnitude in world politics, the deployment of nuclear weapons, are themselves unqualified to do that. Okay, the people who can try a woman for infanticide, a cooked up charge of infanticide, who can aggressively attack a woman, okay, who can make her utterly defenseless. So are they qualified to stage a protest play against nuclear proliferation? This question is asked. So which brings us back to the question of organic intellectuals. Whether organic intellectuals can actually emerge in India or in Maharashtra, or how there is always a certain kind of pretentiousness about intellectuals. Okay, they simply pretend that they are alive and alert to what is happening, while they are utterly ignorant, indifferent to what is going on in society. Okay, so this is it, and the various ways in which the old attitudes do not change. Okay. The one character is called Sukhatme, a pleasure-loving man. His name is apt. Sukhatme, Sukha Lolube. So he wants to have a smoke, eat well, relax. Okay, utterly indifferent to what is going on in society. So Tendulkar's play is not an isolated one. So we already had a look at C.J. Thomas's play. Crime 27 of 1128, year 1128, where again we saw a set of characters who are not alive to what is happening in society, who are indifferent to its vicissitudes, what is happening, who are simply after their own selfish interests. Same thing happens here. Same thing happens in this play, where the characters demonstrate their inability to respond to contemporary events. Right? The inability to live up to what is expected of them as responsible citizens of society. That's what we find here. And the structure of the play, how, as I told you, how the play within the play is structured, how the characters act in unison to destroy Leela Benare, how her utter defenselessness at the end is projected in the play, how even an individual with determination like Leela Benare can be destroyed by society. Okay. So I don't know if Tendulkar actually meant that a single woman acting alone cannot achieve anything. I don't know if that is the message. It can be one of the messages. Okay. A single individual, very determined, full of vigor, okay, bold, completely indifferent or completely unafraid of what is going to happen to her in any circumstance. So I think this is one of the things which Tendulkar tried to put across to us. That's the idea that such individual or anarchic protests achieve nothing. Okay, that's how. That's why Leela Benare breaks down at the end. That she is unable to sustain the kind of protest that she mounted in the beginning, the kind of attack against male chauvinism that she mounted in the beginning, and she collapses at the end. Okay. So I'm not going into the background of the play or the background of the artist Tendulkar. That you will get in from any source. I can even send you some material. But remember, this is the crux of the play. I have led you into the play, I believe. I have kind of looked at it laterally from outside to find out how it can be read, how it can be accessed, both in a very general way, as I said, a feminist text, an attack on the judiciary, a social satire. All these are possible readings, and also how it can be set against the age of its creation, which is the 60s of the last century. So much was happening in the 1960s. The traditional mores were being discarded. Indian society was changing, although very slowly. Yeah, the polity was changing. Okay, India's relationship with the world, superpowers especially, was changing. Everything was changing, and basically this change is reflected in the plays of the time. Plays written by such plays. Habib Tanvir is one such playwright. We are going to look at his play, Charndastur, and then Tughlaq, Girish Karnad's play. The play Ebam Indrajit by Badal Sarkar. We are not going to look at it now, but probably if you get it, you can read it. Ulpal Dutt, the Bangla playwright. We've already seen C.J. Thomas. Okay. So together these playwrights constitute a renaissance in Indian drama post 1947, and things have moved on. The drama in India has moved on. We have different techniques, we have different themes. Okay, but this age in Indian drama is remarkable, you must remember. Okay, coming at a very crucial time in post 1947 or post decolonized Indian society. Right. So just have a look at the play, read it, and go through the material I sent you and which I am going to send you on the play. Thank you.